I'm writing this from my sister's spare bedroom, the same room where I've been crying myself to sleep for the past 3 weeks. My husband of 18 years is divorcing me, my children won't speak to me, and everyone I know has turned their backs on me. Yes, I had an affair. Yes, I destroyed my family. But nobody wants to hear about the years of loneliness that led me there. I'm Rebecca, 38, mother of 4, and until recently, I thought I had the perfect life. On paper, I did. Beautiful suburban home, successful husband, healthy kids, the PTA presidency, yoga classes, book club. Everything a woman is supposed to want. So why did I throw it all away for a few months with a 29-year-old marketing coordinator named Tyler? The answer isn't as simple as everyone wants it to be. It's not just that I'm selfish or that I'm a terrible person, though God knows I feel like both right now. It started 3 years ago when my best friend from college, Melissa, died of ovarian cancer at 35. Melissa lived the life I could have had. Senior partner at a law firm, penthouse apartment, traveled the world, dated interesting men. At her funeral, surrounded by hundreds of people whose lives she'd touched, I realized something devastating. Nobody would remember me like this. I was just David's wife, mom to 4 kids, the woman who brought homemade cookies to bake sales. "You have such a beautiful family," people kept telling me at the funeral. "Melissa always said she envied your life." But did she really? Or was that just something she said to make me feel better about giving up my dreams at 18 to marry my high school sweetheart? David and I met when I was 16. He was the star quarterback. I was the valedictorian with a full scholarship to Northwestern. But I was also naive, religious, and terrified of losing him. When he proposed at 18, right before I was supposed to leave for college, I said yes. My parents were furious, but I was in love. "You're throwing away your future," my mother said. "You could be anything." "I want to be his wife," I'd replied, so sure I was making the right choice. We got married 2 weeks after graduation in a small ceremony at his family's church. I wore my mother's dress, altered to hide the baby bump that was already starting to show. Yes, I was pregnant. That's the part I don't usually tell people. The real reason I gave up Northwestern wasn't just love. It was fear and obligation. David stepped up. I'll give him that. He worked 2 jobs while going to community college for computer science. I stayed home with baby Emma, then Jacob 2 years later, then the twins, Luke and Lily, 3 years after that. By 25, I had 4 kids and had never lived anywhere but our small Illinois town. 20 years later, standing at Melissa's funeral, I finally understood what my mother meant. I'd traded my potential for security, my dreams for diapers, my identity for the title of Mrs. David Mitchell. The resentment started slowly. Little things at first. David would come home from work, he's a software engineer who makes excellent money now, and immediately disappear into his home office. I'd spend all day with the kids, managing the house, volunteering at school, and he'd barely look up from his computer to acknowledge me. "How was your day?" became a perfunctory question with a predetermined answer. "Fine," was all he wanted to hear. Any deviation from that script, any attempt to share my actual thoughts or feelings, was met with distracted nods and, "That's nice, honey," while he scrolled through his phone. I remember one night, about 6 months after Melissa's funeral, trying to talk to him about how I was feeling. The kids were in bed, we were sitting on the couch, and I'd had 2 glasses of wine for courage. "I've been thinking about going back to school," I said. "Maybe finishing my degree." David didn't even look up from his laptop. "Sure, honey, whatever you want." "I'm serious, David. I could take online classes, work around the kids' schedules." He finally looked at me, confusion in his eyes. "Why would you want to do that? We don't need the money." "It's not about money, it's about me, having something for myself." "You have plenty," he said, gesturing around our perfect living room. "What more do you need?" I tried to talk to him about it, especially after Melissa's death left me questioning everything. I suggested date nights, couples vacations, even therapy. His response was always the same. "We have a good life, Becca. Why are you trying to create problems?" But I wasn't creating problems. I was drowning in the life we'd built, and he couldn't even see it. Or wouldn't. I'd given up my scholarship, my career, my name, my body. 4 pregnancies do things to you. And what did I have to show for it? A husband who saw me as part of the furniture, and kids who only noticed me when they needed something. The loneliness was suffocating. I'd lie next to David at night, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt when I was actually single. He'd roll over after perfunctory sex. Always Thursday nights, always missionary, always exactly 7 minutes from start to his finish, and fall asleep immediately while I stared at the ceiling, wondering if this was all there was. I started having dreams about Melissa's life, traveling to Paris alone, having intellectual conversations at gallery openings, being wanted for my mind, not just my ability to remember soccer schedules and pack lunches. I'd wake up feeling guilty and empty. My sister Karen got engaged around this time to a man she'd met on a dating app. She'd spent her 20s and early 30s traveling, building her career in fashion, having adventures. Now at 34, she was choosing marriage on her own terms with a man who worshipped her. The jealousy I felt was overwhelming. She'd lived the life I'd given up, and now she was getting the fairy tale ending too. I threw myself into planning her bachelorette party, living vicariously through her stories of past lovers and wild nights. Then, 3 months before the wedding, she called me sobbing. She'd cheated on her fiancé with a photographer from a shoot in Miami. One night, too much champagne, a moment of weakness. Her fiancé found out when she confessed in a fit of guilt and left her immediately. "I had everything," she wailed in my kitchen. "Why did I throw it away?" I held her while she cried, but inside I was fascinated. What would drive someone who had everything to risk it all? Now I know. Sometimes the risk itself is the point. The reminder that you're still alive, still capable of making choices, even catastrophically bad ones. I became obsessed with her story. Here was my successful, independent sister brought low by desire. It was like watching myself in an alternate universe. What if I'd taken that scholarship? What if I'd said no to David's proposal? What if I'd ever been with anyone else? That last thought consumed me. I'd only ever been with David. Only ever kissed David. My first kiss at 16 turned into my only kiss. While my friends in college were experimenting, discovering themselves, I was at home with a baby on my hip and a ring on my finger. I'd never had a first date as an adult, never felt the thrill of a new touch, never experienced that intoxicating uncertainty of not knowing where a relationship might go. Enter Tyler. He started at my company 7 months ago. I work part-time in marketing, one of my few connections to the outside world. He was everything David wasn't. Tall where David was average, dark where David was fair, eloquent where David was silent. He wore fitted suits and designer glasses, quoted poetry in presentations, had opinions about wine that went beyond red or white. "Your presentation was brilliant," he said after a meeting where I'd pitched a campaign. That insight about targeting millennial mothers. Where did that come from? I almost cried. When was the last time someone had called anything I did brilliant? David hadn't even asked about the presentation when I got home, just reminded me to pick up his dry cleaning. Tyler started seeking me out. Coffee runs became coffee breaks. Coffee breaks became lunches. He'd lean in when I talked, ask follow-up questions, remember details from previous conversations. He made me feel like I had something interesting to say. "Tell me about yourself," he said one day over lunch. "The real you, not the LinkedIn version." "I'm a part-time marketing coordinator and full-time mom," I said, giving my standard answer. "That's what you do," he said, those green eyes intense behind his glasses. I asked who you are. I couldn't answer because I didn't know anymore. Tyler started telling me about his life, his MBA from Columbia, his startup that almost made it, his apartment with exposed brick and jazz vinyl. He was married, he mentioned casually, to a woman named Sophia, who was finishing her residency in Portland. Long distance was hard, he said. She was focused on her career, didn't want kids, they were growing apart. Sometimes I think we got married because it was the next step, not because it was right, he told me one afternoon. I know exactly what you mean, I said, then immediately felt guilty. The emotional affair started through text. Innocent at first. Work questions, article links, funny memes. Then Tyler started texting after hours. Thinking about your campaign idea. Saw this and thought of you. Can't wait to hear your thoughts tomorrow. David never texted me unless he needed something. Pick up milk. Running late. Where's my blue shirt? Meanwhile, Tyler was sending paragraphs about my insights, my potential, my mind. I knew it was wrong. I'd delete the texts, then restore them to read again. I'd promise myself I'd keep it professional, then find myself choosing my outfits based on what Tyler might like. I started lying about working late, team dinners that didn't exist, conference calls that were really stolen hours at wine bars where Tyler would lean close and tell me I was extraordinary. You're not happy, he said one night after 3 glasses of wine. It wasn't a question. I have a good life, I replied, parroting David's words. Good isn't the same as fulfilling. When's the last time you did something just for you? I couldn't answer because I couldn't remember. Everything I did was for David, for the kids, for the house, for the image we projected to the world. Even this job was just to keep busy, as David called it, pin money that went straight to kids' activities. The night everything changed was a Thursday in March. I'd told David I had book club, but really I was at a hotel bar with Tyler, celebrating landing a major client. He'd insisted on champagne, real champagne, not the Prosecco David bought for special occasions. To the brilliant Rebecca Mitchell, he toasted. May she finally realize how amazing she is. The champagne went to my head. Or maybe it was the way he looked at me, like I was someone worth celebrating. When he walked me to my car, I knew what was going to happen. I wanted it to happen. The kiss was everything I'd imagined and nothing like it. 20 years of marriage, of routine, of predictability vanished in that moment. I was 16 again, but with the knowledge of what I'd missed. The guilt hit immediately, but it was drowned out by something more powerful. I felt alive. I'm married, I said, pulling away. I know, Tyler replied. So am I. We can't do this. We already are. The affair became physical 2 weeks later. I dropped the twins at school, told myself I was going to end it, and drove straight to Tyler's apartment. The sex was different, urgent, selfish, nothing like the comfortable routine with David. Tyler was passionate but impatient, focused on conquest rather than connection. But it didn't matter. What mattered was that I was desired, wanted, chosen. For 2 months, I lived a double life. Perfect wife and mother by day, Tyler's secret lover when I could steal the time. I became an expert at deception. False entries in my calendar, a secret credit card for hotel rooms, a burner phone hidden in my car. The lies came so easily it scared me. But here's what nobody tells you about affairs. The high is temporary. The excitement that first consumed me started to fade as reality crept in. Tyler wasn't interested in my children or my life outside our bubble. He'd grow impatient when I had to leave for school pickup, irritated when I couldn't meet because of a soccer game. Can't you get a babysitter? He'd complain. They're my children, Tyler. I can't just abandon them. You're abandoning yourself, he'd say, and I'd feel guilty for choosing my kids over him. The sex, which had seemed so revolutionary compared to my marriage, became routine in its own way. Tyler was selfish, focused on his own pleasure. At least David, for all his faults, always made sure I was satisfied. Tyler treated me like a conquest, not a partner. He'd check his phone immediately after, already mentally moving on to his next meeting. Meanwhile, David was trying harder than he had in years. It started small. He'd bring coffee to me in bed, suggest we watch a movie together, ask about my day, and actually listen to the answer. Then it escalated. Flowers every Friday, like when we were dating, notes in my lunch bag, Reservations at restaurants I'd mentioned wanting to try. "I feel like I've been taking you for granted," he said one night, holding my hand across the dinner table. "You do so much for this family. For me. I want you to know I see it. I see you." The words I'd longed to hear for years, and now they made me sick. Where was this effort when I needed it? Why did it take me pulling away for him to see me? I treated him terribly. I'd snap at him for tiny things, refuse his advances, mock his attempts at romance. He'd bring me flowers and I'd leave them to die on the counter. He'd plan a date and I'd claim a headache. The guilt made me cruel and the cruelty made me guiltier, creating a vicious cycle I couldn't escape. "I love you, Becca," he said one night, tears in his eyes. "Whatever's wrong, we can fix it together. Just talk to me." I pulled my hand away. "Nothing's wrong, stop being so dramatic." The look on his face, confusion, hurt, determination, should have been my wake-up call. Instead, I texted Tyler the moment David went to bed. "He knows something," I typed. "You're paranoid," Tyler replied. "Stop overthinking." But David did know. I realize now all the signs were there. He started working from home more, always seeming to be around when I said I had errands. He'd ask specific questions about my day that felt like tests. Once I came home from book club to find him reading the same book we were supposedly discussing. "How was the discussion about chapter 12? He asked casually. I hadn't read the book. "Great," I lied. "Really insightful." He nodded and went back to reading, but I saw something shift in his eyes. 2 months into the physical affair, everything changed overnight. David stopped trying. No more notes, no more flowers, no more attempts at conversation. He became a ghost in our own home, present but absent. He'd make dinner for the kids but not set a place for me. He'd take them to their activities but leave without telling me. When I tried to pick fights, he'd simply leave the room. The silence was deafening. I'd grown used to his attempts to win me back, had even derived a sick pleasure from rejecting them. Now, faced with his indifference, I panicked. I started dressing up for him, cooking his favorite meals, trying to initiate sex. He'd pull away from my touch like I was poisonous. "What's wrong?" I asked one night, finding him in his office at 2 a.m. "Nothing," he said, not looking up from his computer. "Go to bed, Rebecca." Rebecca, not Becca, not honey. Rebecca like I was a stranger. Tyler sensed the change too. "You're distracted," he complained after I cut our afternoon short. "This isn't fun anymore." Fun. That's all I'd ever been to him. A bored housewife to boost his ego. The reality hit me like a physical blow. I'd destroyed my marriage for a man who saw me as entertainment. "I think we should cool things off," I said. "Fine," he shrugged. "Sophia's moving here next month anyway." Just like that. 2 months of passion, of risk, of destroying everything I'd built, dismissed with a shrug. I drove home feeling empty and sick, desperate to salvage what was left of my marriage. But it was too late. 3 weeks later, David was waiting in the kitchen when I got home, smiling for the first time in months. My heart soared. Maybe we could fix this. Then I saw the folder on the table. "Sit down, Rebecca," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. He knew. Had known almost from the beginning. The folder was full of evidence. Photos of Tyler and me at restaurants, entering hotels, kissing in my car. Printed texts from my burner phone, credit card statements, phone records, a private investigator's report detailing every sordid moment. "I gave you every chance to come clean," he said, his voice steady but his hands shaking. "I tried to remind you what we had, but you chose him." I couldn't breathe. The room spun. 20 years of marriage reduced to evidence in a folder. I tried to explain, to apologize, to beg, but the words wouldn't come. "I've already filed for divorce," he continued. "I've been documenting everything for months. Custody will be interesting. Judges don't look kindly on mothers who abandon their children for affairs." "I never abandoned them," I protested. "Really? Where were you during Emma's science fair? Luke's baseball championship? Lily's dance recital? I'd been with Tyler for all of them. The realization hit me like a punch. I'd missed irreplaceable moments with my children for mediocre sex with a narcissist. David, please. I'm done, Rebecca. 20 years I loved you. 20 years I worked to give you everything. And this is how you repay me? By fucking some pretentious asshole who doesn't even know our children's names? He'd never spoken to me like that. David, who never swore, who never raised his voice, was looking at me with such disgust I wanted to disappear. I'm taking the kids to my mother's for the weekend, he said. You need to be gone when we get back. Karen knows you're coming. Then he left, and I collapsed. I don't know how long I sat on that kitchen floor, sobbing until I couldn't breathe. I called Tyler, desperate for something, anything. His phone went straight to voicemail. I'd later learn he'd blocked my number the moment I left his apartment. My sister found me hours later, hysterical on the kitchen floor. She took one look at the folder, at me, and shook her head. You stupid, stupid woman, she said. I warned you. I told you exactly what would happen. She took me to her apartment, where I've been ever since. The irony isn't lost on either of us. Two sisters who destroyed their relationships, now roommates in misery. I've tried everything to fix this. I wrote David a letter detailing every mistake, every moment of weakness. I offered him everything in the divorce. The house, the savings, full custody. I begged him to try counseling. His response was always the same. It's too late, Rebecca. In my desperation, I confessed to everyone. I called Tyler's wife in Portland, told her everything. I thought if I burned it all down, showed David how sorry I was, he might forgive me. Instead, I just created more wreckage. Tyler lost his job and his marriage. His wife sent me a message calling me a pathetic old woman who destroyed their lives. She wasn't wrong. I told our friends thinking honesty might help. They chose David. Of course they did. He's the wronged party, the faithful husband, the victim. I'm the cliché, the bored housewife who had an affair with a younger man. Nobody wants to hear about the loneliness, the invisibility, the slow death of being taken for granted. My children hate me. My 15-year-old daughter Emma won't even look at me. You ruined everything, she said the last time I saw her. Dad did everything for us and you cheated on him. You're disgusting. Jacob, my 13-year-old, sent me a text that broke me. I hope Dad finds someone who actually loves him. You never deserved him. The twins, only 10, are confused and hurt. They don't understand why Mommy can't come home, why Daddy cries when he thinks they're not looking, why their whole world exploded overnight. Did you stop loving us? Lily asked during my supervised visit last week. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that Mommy loved them, but loved herself more? That Mommy needed to feel special and forgot what was actually special? I know I'm supposed to take full responsibility. I know I'm the villain in this story. I made the choices that destroyed my family. But I can't help but wonder, if David had seen me drowning years ago, if he'd noticed when I started dying inside, would any of this have happened? My therapist says I'm still not taking accountability, that I'm blaming David for my choices. Maybe she's right. But how do you explain 20 years of feeling invisible? How do you quantify the accumulated weight of being overlooked, undervalued, taken for granted? I gave up everything for David when I was 18. My education, my career, my name, my body, my dreams. I spent 2 decades building his life, raising his children, keeping his home. And in return, I got security and loneliness. Is it so wrong that I wanted to feel alive before it was too late? The answer, apparently, is yes. I'm 38 years old, living in my sister's spare room, estranged from my children, divorced from the only man I'd ever loved until I didn't. I destroyed everything for a few months of feeling wanted, and now I have nothing. David's already dating. A 32-year-old engineer from his company named Ashley, Pretty blonde, childless, everything I'm not anymore. They go to concerts and restaurants, all the things he never wanted to do with me. My kids like her. She makes them laugh, my daughter told my sister. She actually listens to them, plays video games with Jacob, helps the twins with homework. She's nothing like you, Emma said cruelly during our last phone call. She actually cares about Dad. I see now what I couldn't then. David did love me in his way. He just loved the idea of me more than the reality, the perfect wife, the devoted mother, the stable foundation that let him pursue his career and hobbies without worry. When I tried to be more than that, when I needed more than that, he couldn't adjust. But instead of communicating, I chose destruction. The house sold last month. David sent me photos of him and the kids packing up their rooms, starting fresh. My wedding dress was in one of the donation piles. 20 years of photo albums. The furniture we'd picked out as newlyweds. All of it gone, erased, like I never existed. I want to scream at the unfairness of it all. I want to rage at David for not fighting for us, at Tyler for using me, at myself for being so phenomenally stupid. But mostly I just feel empty. The exciting, passionate woman I thought I'd discovered during the affair, she was just another lie I'd told myself. My former friends whisper about me at school pickup. Karen tells me everything. "Did you hear about Rebecca Mitchell?" they say, voices dripping with false sympathy and real judgment. Threw away her perfect life for some guy at work. David's such a saint for handling it so well. Saint David. Devoted David. Poor David. Nobody remembers the years of emotional absence, the way he'd dismiss my dreams, the loneliness of being married to someone who stopped seeing you. They just see the cheater and her victim. I lie awake at night, replaying every moment, every choice, every opportunity I had to stop this train wreck. If I'd been stronger, if I'd been smarter, if I'd been better, if I'd insisted on counseling years ago instead of having an affair, if I'd divorced David honestly instead of betraying him, if. But I wasn't strong or smart or better. I was weak and selfish and desperate, and now I have to live with the consequences. David was right to leave me. My children are right to hate me. My friends are right to judge me. I destroyed a good man who loved me in the only way he knew how, traumatized 4 innocent children, and threw away a life most women would kill for. All because I wanted to feel special. The joke is, I don't feel special now. I feel empty, broken, and utterly alone. Tyler moved back to Portland with his wife. Yes, she took him back. David moved on with someone better. My children are learning to live without me. And I'm here, typing this story on my sister's laptop, hoping someone, somewhere might understand. But even if they do, it doesn't matter. Understanding doesn't undo betrayal. Sympathy doesn't rebuild trust. And feeling invisible in a marriage doesn't justify destroying it. I ruined everything for nothing. That's my story. That's my truth. That's my punishment. Knowing that I had everything and chose nothing instead. Knowing that my children will grow up remembering their mother as the woman who chose an affair over their family. Knowing that David will find real love with someone who appreciates him, while I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I threw away the only man who ever truly loved me, flaws and all. The irony is perfect in its cruelty. I wanted to feel seen, and now I'm invisible in a whole new way. The ghost of the Mitchell family, the cautionary tale, the woman who had it all and burned it down for a few months of feeling alive. Some nights I dream about parallel universes, one where I took that scholarship to Northwestern, one where I had the courage to ask David for what I needed instead of seeking it elsewhere, one where I chose divorce over deception. But I wake up in this universe where I'm the villain of my own story, and I have no one to blame but myself.